today's class, we're going to want, if at all possible, some sort of a block or something that you can use for a little bit of height, like a stack of books or whatever, like a bolster, a rolled up blanket, a rolled up like pillow, like a towel with, rolled all the way up, folded nice and tight. So whatever you can do that gives you just a little bit, like that's at least 6 inches, if not more. That there's a couple of places today where we can use it. If you don't have anything, there's other stuff that you can do instead, but if at all possible, try to get some sort of a block or prop. Let's make our way down to a comfortable position all the way onto our backs. If you've attended multiple classes of mine, you'll notice that that's one of my habits, is to get started like that. I really like us to feel this connection to earth. And I like having this chance to feel our muscles in a completely relaxed state. So as you're here, just start off enjoying a few huge deep breaths. We're breathing all the way into the belly's rising. And with that exhale, let it be extra slow. There's no effort, there's no pushing on the exhale. It simply happens on its own, just a nice, comfortable deflation. Now we want our exhale to be at least 2 counts longer than whatever our inhale is. So take a moment just to count in your head what your natural breath cycle is right now. So maybe it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe a pace like that. Maybe it's slightly longer or slightly shorter. Doesn't matter too much what your actual pace is right now. But when you've gotten about what your rhythm is, add 2 extra counts to the exhale and begin to experience a few rounds of breath just like that. Keep the breath going just like this. This particular breath is extremely helpful for helping to calm down the body. I especially find it useful when I'm having trouble going to sleep. I'll do this breath, do an inhale for about 4 counts and exhale about 6 counts. And doing the breath like that changes the proportion of carbon dioxide to oxygen in your body. And it puts you chemically into the right chemical position for your body to start falling asleep. It kind of tricks the body into thinking, oh yeah, this is the time to slow down and start going to rest. And that's exactly what our intention is today, helping us to find rest. Whether that's physically, if you've been having trouble sleeping lately, perhaps this is physically helping to train our body for that comfortable, restful state, or perhaps just helping us have a slightly deeper amount of calm in our day. If that's the intention as well, that is that restfulness, that wonderful relaxation through our system that lets us find healing and nourishment. That's the kind of quality that we're seeking for in our practice. So I'll try to remind us multiple times throughout class. Inhale for 4 and exhale for 6. And so from here, we're going to start bringing our knees inward for the chest. With a hand on each knee, take just a couple of rounds to rock around on the hips, nice and slow. Very gentle, just tuning in, checking in with how our hips and our body are doing at this moment. Keeping the breath in and out of the nose. And then we start to head toward a beautiful twist in our body. Just gently set this left foot down, The right knee crosses tightly over. The hips get bumped an inch to the right so that the knees can just comfortably start to fall leftward. They do not have to go all the way to touching the ground, especially if that makes this right shoulder pop up. Instead, keep the shoulder all the way connected to the ground. Feel that upper back spreading wide onto the floor. And then just from the ability for that to stay in place, you start to let the rest of the muscles of the spine just melt deeper and deeper, as deep as they wish to go. So keep the breath going. Notice how it's a little funky breathing into the belly, but still keep it going very deep. Oftentimes when we're physically resting, our back muscles get very tight. And so this is a way for us to be in a restful position, but still allow the spine to begin to stretch a little bit, taking some of that tightness right out of our system. We continue to breathe. In these yin classes, we hold poses quite a bit longer than some of the other classes. Usually it's around 3 minutes or more. We continue to breathe nice and slow. And going slow like that is so powerful for the mind to help us get trained as if we're setting a new type of muscle memory. We're training ourselves that it's okay to not have to go so fast all the time. To not have to work on a million things on our to-do list. It's okay just to do one thing at a time and really be in that thing. So here we're breathing deep and full. Our body is progressively relaxing deeper and deeper. Letting our breath go extremely slow and deep. Let's take 3 more huge cycles. After that 3rd cycle, we're gradually going to begin to unwind. The back muscles, notice how you don't want to immediately contract them. You can already just intuitively feel that doesn't feel good. So instead we start off uncrossing the knees and then start to let the weight of your hips return the spine back. Eventually the knees are upright. We recenter the hips onto the mat. Let's take a few rounds with the knees going left and a few rounds knees going right, just to make sure the back muscles are ready to be in a new position. When that feels pretty complete, we'll go right into the second side. The right foot stays planted, so left knee can cross over. Hips get bumped just a little bit to the left, about an inch or so. And then once again, it's this left shoulder that stays on the ground. The upper back is trying to have as much surface area in contact with the ground as possible. And then gravity starts to take over. The knees just kind of melt their way over to the right side. Feel that beautiful progression. You do not have to go immediately into the deepest part of the pose. Take your time. Be with it. And breathe with it. Notice as we're working on this slow breath, it's kind of natural for the body to just take on a slightly constricted state to the throat. In yoga, we call that the ujjayi breath. It's almost like an ocean wave passing in and out. Just a gentle, constant flow in and out. So if that starts to happen, I encourage you to keep it. It's a very good way to maintain the slowness of the breath. It's almost like a slow pacemaker for us. Keeping it very long, very steady. That's also a lot of people, as they're starting to fall asleep, that's also the breath that they tend to take on. So start to notice yourself in that restful state. As you're falling asleep, notice the breath. Maybe we've never ever realized some of these things before, that longer exhale or that light constriction. But that's one of the invitations of yoga, to bring an increased awareness and consciousness to more parts of our life, so that we're not just doing life, but we're being alive through the journey, through the whole process. Can your next couple of breaths be even deeper than the last few? Giving ourselves this gift of 2 more extremely slow breaths. Inhale for 4. Exhale for 6. After that second cycle, nice and slow, again, we start the return out of this pose by uncrossing the knees, and then the weight of the hips starts to return our back onto the earth. Once you're there, once again, let your knees go with a few windshield wipers so you can feel and check in with the back. No rushing, go nice and slow. When the back muscles feel like they're okay, they're ready to move on, we're going to roll over to one side, press our weight up, and here we're going to come all the way up to a standing forward fold. Now this is a place where you could grab your block as we start to plant our feet onto the earth. Let's go a little bit wider than the hips today. No need to force the feet too close together today, but just slightly wider than the hips. Some of us may have hands on the block the whole time. Some of us may start to work down more of the forearms onto the block. Occasionally there's people who are extremely open, where their hands can be on the floor and they're starting to work their head down onto the block. Or if you make a couple of fists, then work the head down onto the fists. So you choose which arrangement works best for you. We begin to breathe here. The knees are not locking all the way straight. That locking is never something we're looking for in yoga. The locked knee actually cuts off the circulation to the legs, and it can be kind of detrimental to the health of the knees. So a slight bend is okay. Know that you don't have to force things straight. And so note from here, there's going to be several poses that we're going to do today that include types of inversions. And they're not full inversions, like you might get a headstand or a shoulder stand. in some yoga classes. In yin, we don't quite go that far because that's too much effort involved. We're trying to find a deep amount of release, finding an edge where we can just hold. And so instead, the inversions we take are things like this, where the head is just hanging below the heart. Or later on, we're going to have our hips elevated on a block. Now, interesting thing about inversions is that inversions actually do help our system go into a relaxed state. And part of the reason for that is because normally 25% of the work of the heart is to try to force blood all the way up into the head, because the brain needs blood or you'll die. And so when we flip upside down, suddenly it's effortless to get blood to the brain. And so the heart's able to relax. And the more the heart can relax, the more the rest of the system, the whole nervous system, begins to get calm, peaceful. And so with our intention being that restful quality today, inversions actually can be an extremely helpful way to prepare us for that state. So just continue to relax. What I'm doing as I'm here is I'm scanning through the body, and I'm trying to find tension that's occurring that doesn't have to be there. So this is areas of my body that are trying to protect my body from going deeper. For instance, sometimes in my glutes, I start to feel that I didn't even realize I was contracting them to kind of hold myself back from a deeper pose. And then I ask myself, does that contraction have to be there? If not, see if you can consciously tell the glutes to relax a little bit, and see if that allows gravity to work even deeper for your system. And then once you're at that new edge, see if there's something else that's holding on. See if there's a way we can release that as well. We're here just a bit longer. Keep the breath going. You can breathe into the belly even though we're upside down. So take this moment to experience that. Be with the breath. Let's take those last 3 beautiful deep breaths in this pose. And then from here, we just like before, we don't rush our way out. You can spin our block off to the side. Start to walk the hands forward, traveling gradually through the shape of downward facing dog. Feel how the hamstrings are already prepared for a down dog. Oftentimes when we go into down dog before forward folds in normal yoga classes, so then down dog's tight, but here feel the loose quality. Feel that freedom that's available. And then from here, we gently lower down into the knees. Our next pose is just a beautiful child's pose. Now, in our child's pose today, and notice how we slowly lower down to the knees before our head got to be above the heart. That was so that, we don't get that head rush that happens after inversions. We take our time even with that. Now, as we're heading to child pose, I would like us to try to make sure the head can rest on the ground today, especially after that inversion. So if you need to have your knees a little bit wider, that's perfectly fine. So that the head can settle down. We'll have the arms reaching forward And you have an option, as long as this is not uncomfortable for your body, to bring your block at any height out in front of you and to try to set the wrists or the forearms up onto that slight elevation. So that way we're getting just a slight shoulder stretch as we're in our child's pose. Feel how this helps to pull the spine long forward. And it's helping our shoulders to get pulled backward. Oftentimes in our postures throughout the day, our shoulders hunch forward, and that can impede our ability to take deep, full breaths. So with the shoulders pulled slightly back, if you're in this version, notice that, take a few breaths to notice the air passing in and out of the lungs, and notice how it can be deep and full in this moment. The exhale can be extremely easeful, very comfortable. If the arms ever get tired during these few minutes being elevated, you can bump them down to just rest on the floor again. The goal is not to find numbness. The goal is not to cut off circulation in the body. Instead, we're simply holding in a beautiful, deep space. So if those other things start to happen, that just tells us this is no longer the most helpful position to be. So then we begin to move back to a spot where it is more helpful. This is that point where we can take the last 3 breaths all the way in. Inhale for 4. Exhale for 6. 2 more slow cycles just like that. After that last cycle, you can begin to drop the elbows down to the ground. Slide the hands in close to the shoulders so that we can gently press our head and our back and our entire torso upright. Feel that immediate relief starting to happen through the hip flexor muscles. And so here, just to help the hip flexors, just a brief moment, we're going to bring ourselves in toward a Cobra Pose. You do not have to lower the pelvis all the way to the ground. Rather, start off with a nice kneeling plank and just drop the hips a little bit. Feel the front part of the hips stretch. Take another good breath in and out. And then lifting the hips back up, sit to one side of the feet, and begin to swing the legs out in front. From here, we're taking what we would call in a regular yoga class, Janushirasana. This has one leg out in front of us. We're starting off with the right leg extended, and this left foot is tucked right up to the right side. From here, we're keeping our torso extended forward toward that right leg, and we're going to bring ourselves into a beautiful forward fold over that side. Now it can be very helpful to bring this block out in front of you. I usually like to use it as a place for my forehead to work down onto. Some people are not quite there though, so you can just rest elbows. You can start to work, just slightly deeper, more like fists stacked for the forehead, or eventually working your way all the way to that restful spot. Know that my back is not rounded behind the hips. And so if that's what your body is looking more like, you're going to take your block and just sit on it instead. We need our hips to tilt forward with us because that's what helps us to create length through the hamstrings. So know that, again, you don't have to immediately find yourself in the deepest stretch possible. Rather, this is a journey for a few minutes of just continuing to release, feeling where our current edge is, and just breathing into that edge. But continuing to check in, because when we've held poses for a few minutes, oftentimes our edge will begin to change. It'll shift deeper. And so then we find our new edge over and over again. And what does the breath feel like going into the belly now? We've gotten to experience several different variations of how it can feel breathing into the belly. A twist is very different than the forward fold. That's different than a child pose. And this yet is another experience of belly breathing, where we're not pulling against gravity. So just continue to find a way to get to your edge. Remembering you can continue to scoot forward if needed. And as you're at the edge, find the quality of rest. When you're sleeping, you're not worried about going deeper or anything like that. This is about just breathing and completely surrendering the body so that the body can do what it knows how to do without our conscious control. It knows how to heal. It knows how to get into very deep brain waves where the subconscious can start to clear itself out with our dreams. All that depth is available not because we told it to happen, but because it knows what to do, even without our conscious control. So keep breathing. We're almost finished with this position. Last 3 beautiful breaths right here. And then we find our hands down onto the ground in front of our shoulders. And we press the hands into the earth to help our back slowly rise up and out of that shape. Before we switch to the other side, we need to take a little twist for our body. So bring that left knee upright, left foot is planted on the ground now. The left hand comes all the way behind us. And we use the right hand to help us take a spinal twist. So some of us are going to just be hooking the hand around the knee, lifting the spine up tall and rotating. And some of us are going to hook to the elbow, or even bring the elbow in front of the knee. It's up to you. We're not trying to force our spine to, go all the way to the edge, but rather think of the muscles A lot of chiropractors say that they actually don't like people popping their back all the time. Rather, they prefer to be able to find length through the muscles. So lifting up tall and then just gradually finding a nice rotation, this expansion happening through the body. This helps to make sure that we're taking the whole spine with us and not just forcing one or two vertebrae that are already flexible to try to go deeper than they should. We're staying in this pose for a little while before we switch sides. So let this be a dynamic process. Inhales, I like to lengthen my spine taller every once in a while. And exhales, the shoulder peels back more. Maybe I check in with the belly button. Does the belly button want to come with me? Just noticing what muscular rotation is able to happen. Allow 3 more breaths to flow through the body. Beautiful inhales. Relaxed exhales. After that third breath, unhook the right arm. This left leg, we scoot it out for a moment and just let the knee bob like an apple in water. Just gently lifting up and down a few times. Feeling how that helps to loosen that muscle group, helps to prepare that muscle to now find that hamstring extension. So when that feels ready, we're switching sides. The left leg is now the one that's in front of us, and the right foot's the one that's tucked into the thigh. If you used the block before in front of you and found a very helpful variation, take it to about that right spot. The torso's turning toward that left leg. Remember, we're not rounding spine back or we need to sit on the block. The posture's tall to get started. We begin to tilt forward as if gravity is putting such a magnetic attraction to our heart that we can't help but just get pulled that direction. Taking your dear sweet time, there's no rush. Perhaps that's a mantra that would be beneficial for our life, just reminding ourselves all day long, there's no rush. I can only do what I can do. And so let life take care of itself, knowing that I don't have to stress about not being able to run faster than I can run right now. In fact, maybe I should just walk sometimes, metaphorically in life. Perhaps we've come to a depth where the forehead rests. Maybe stacked palms, stacked fists allow us a depth that's available. And if we're not that far, if we're clear high above the leg, perhaps here we're giving our neck a chance to loosen some of its tightness as well. Rolling left and right. Finding some muscular release through those muscles that are trying to hold us up all day. So know that wherever you're at, accept it and use it to your advantage. Just noticing, how is the breath doing right now? Are we still going with about that inhale 4, exhale 6? Or did we wander off to a different pattern? And to bring ourselves back to this intention of restfulness, let's take 3 more breath cycles. Inhale 4, exhale 6. We slowly find the hands underneath us. They walk us in. And once again, we take that beautiful twist. This right knee gets flipped up at the foot. The left hand grabs onto the knee, or maybe working further to the elbow. And with the other hand behind us, we start to rotate the spine. Work it breath by breath. Inhales, helping to lengthen tall. Exhales, seeing what amount of muscular twist is available. And by muscular twist, this is not an effortful squeezing, pushing twist with the muscles. It's more like what we were talking about, where we're not forcing the bones to go too deep. It's just the muscles opening and finding that edge to breathe. Paying attention to the neck for a moment. How comfortable is the neck twisting? If we've ever had neck injuries, don't worry about it. But sometimes it's nice to help the muscles realize they can go about as far as the shoulder. Oftentimes they just want to go, 15 or 20 degrees shy of the shoulder. And if we don't keep up the rotation in our spine, as we start to get years, they tend to fuse together. It'll help maintain that beautiful mobility of the neck as well, making sure the neck muscles are loose enough to allow that to happen for us. So that belly breath, push into the thigh. And take 3 more beautiful rounds. Only releasing when you finish that 3rd full cycle of breath. And from here, we're going to make our way down onto the ground. We're rolling all the way flat onto our back. And we're keeping our feet planted so that we can lift the hips up and slide our block or whatever prop we have under the hips. Now, if you do have an actual block, you do actually have 3 block height options. So you can go a small, medium, or tall. Right now, a nice medium height feels really good for my spine. And so find that amount of lift that's perfect. It's not forcing anything uncomfortable to happen, but it feels like it's freeing up the hips, freeing up the vertebrae. And start to feel this type of inversion. We talked about inversions previously where the heart gets to have a break. And so that sends the rest of the nervous system into actually a state of relaxation. So see if you can feel that beautiful quality even in this pose. Feel how the breath can be nice and slow and how it's so easeful going all the way into the belly. If your world lately has felt like there's something that's just off about it, it doesn't feel right, things don't feel normal, they feel weird. If any of that relates to you, you feel that going on, your emotions are just not at a good normal spot, imagine that this inversion is helping us to flip some things around in our life. Not necessarily to return to exactly how things were, but to flip it toward, in a way, like the highest cosmic good that's possible for us. And trusting that even though we don't know what that highest good entails, we're trusting that in this flip shape, we're giving it permission for whatever is the best possible thing to happen. I give you permission to flip toward that direction. The highest good for all of us. Feeling that wonderful compassion that this isn't just your story. We're all in this. From here, we're going to give ourselves an opportunity, if we wish, to bring this pose into a new depth. So I'm going to offer two options. If either option sounds wonderful to you, take it. If you prefer not, just come right back to the shape where your feet are planted. So one option would be to simply extend your legs longer. And so this brings us into a heart-opening domed shape. So this can be a beautiful variation to be in for a little while. The second option is for those of us that can make it into a plow pose. So if that's what you're wanting to do, lift your hips off the block, removing it, and you're setting the block far away from your head. Usually about as high as your arms can reach is a pretty good spot, but we can adjust it later if it's not quite the right placement. We lift our hips up so that we can get the hands right under the hip bones. We start to lift the knees up, straightening the legs up, and then we gradually begin to try to drop the toes down onto the block, finding a beautiful restful place from there. I'll recommend just keeping your hands to support the hips the whole time. simply so that we're not forcing our spine into too much today. We're not needing to, to work on the deepest flexibility. We're not wanting to force anything else to happen. We're just finding a restful place today. But that being said, if you are that effortful person, it's not wrong to drop the hands if your toes have connection with the block or the floor. If you're in the plow pose or the heart opener, notice how yet again, our breath, it flows differently for us. We're curled in like a little snail in this shape. And so with that spiral, our spine is opening up to a whole different possibility. With the greatest depth that's available for your belly, here we're going to take 3 more of those beautiful deep cycles in and out. After all 3 cycles, we start to work our way out. So if you are in the back bend, start to slide your feet back in. If you're in this plow pose, start to bend the knees in. Perhaps your hands can help you roll onto your back. If not, hands can go on the floor as a break to help us slowly, slowly, slowly roll all the way out. Once we've found the hips back down onto the ground, we're going to take a moment with the supine cobbler pose. So the bottoms of the feet come together, the knees fall open. And feel how different this is on the spine. This creates a slight arch shape. So let that arch happen. We're not forcing the spine to be flattening. Instead, this time we're surrendering to this slight torso opening pose, feeling all these chakras clear down from the root chakra, up the sacrum, up the solar plexus and the heart, feeling all of those beginning to open. If you were in the plow pose a moment ago, that's so kind for the throat chakra, helping there to be an extra amount of blood pooling to help feed that area. And all the inversions we've done helping the upper chakras as well. So feel this whole system a little bit more centered and aligned than normal. They say that when we sleep, all of our chakras open up tremendously. They flare open. And that's why they say, some things are important for your sleep habits, like not having cell phones too close. That could interfere with this chakra opening, having that electrical interference. Other habits like that, they say that radiation affects us, and I think it's the chakra that's why. And so no matter what your story is that you're passing through right now, can we approach this story with our energy, with our chakras a little bit more open? that we realize that all of us are here. All of us are wanting the best. We're doing the best that we can do, and we're wanting the best for others as well. So with that openness, just take a few more breaths to feel the body and the mind simply surrendering open. So from here, we're going to begin to head toward our version of Shavasana for today. There's many things that you can do. For instance, you can plant the feet wide and let the knees simply fall in toward one another. That would give the back a nice break after that opening pose that we just took. You can flatten yourself all the way onto the ground as if you're heading to sleep right at this moment. Or one last offering for anybody who has a wall close by, you can also scoot your hips up to the wall and swing your legs up to rest upward against the wall, not only adding one last inversion into our class today, but also this is one of my favorite poses to do before bed, because it helps after the feet have been swollen and they've done so much work for us today. It helps those feet to have a chance to drain some of the pressure that they've had so that our body can come to a new, better equilibrium. And so any version that you'd like to take is absolutely beautiful. Begin to make your way there now if you haven't already. And to help us transition toward the restful state of Shavasana, once again, start to connect with our inhale for the count of 4, and the exhale for the count of 6. And let this breath take over our body for these last few minutes we get to share together. And realize that we are together, that we're sharing this space over the platform of the internet. And you could imagine all the people that are joining together in this class circling around you, wishing the best for you. And with that heart opening, with all of our chakras wide open, we find these next few minutes almost like the most restful state that we've been in for perhaps a few months. Begin to feel your breath deepen. Take another beautiful round. Inhale for 4. Exhale for 6. From here, little movements are brought back to fingers, back to toes, ankles and wrists. Stretching the arms up overhead like we're waking up first thing in the morning. And at some point, we take a beautiful fetal position off to one side, especially if you had legs up the wall just now. Take a little bit longer so that you can feel that wonderful sensation of blood rushing back into your legs. The blood got oxygen rich at the heart, and so now that oxygen rich blood is pouring through your veins, adding a quality of prana, of healing, of health. Maybe 2 or 3 more breath cycles until we find ourselves up in a beautiful, comfortable seated position. And as we gradually make our way up, we find ourselves joining hands together in front of the heart. Feel a moment to be with this beautiful body. Notice that rested and restful quality that's flowing through our system at this moment. With the intention of carrying restfulness into this beautiful day, let's wrap up the time we got to share together with the sound of Om. Inhaling together now. Om. May we be filled with light and happiness and peace. Namaste.